My name is Annie Oxerart. I'm with the Association for Fire Ecology, and I will be hosting today's webinar. This webinar series is a partnership between the International Association of Wildland Fire, the Pau Costa Foundation, and the Association for Fire Ecology, and is designed to create online opportunities to learn about important wildland fire topics and issues, and to provide a way for the wildland fire community to connect. All three organizations rely on member support and involvement. So please check out the membership information and upcoming opportunities on our websites. I'll put the links to our websites in the chat in just a little bit, and you'll also be able to find the recording of this webinar posted on our websites and also on our YouTube or Vimeo pages. If you haven't done so already, take a minute to use the chat to introduce yourself and where you're tuning in from. I saw on the registration, we have a lot of people from Portugal and Spain and Brazil, the US and Canada, and many other countries. So welcome, we're glad to have you here. The presentation today will be about 40 to 45 minutes long, and then afterward we'll have time for questions and discussion. Please use the question and answer feature to ask your questions. That way we can keep track of them. You can also, I think there's a way for you to like or vote on questions that you want to make sure get answered. And then if you have general comments or conversation, you can use the chat for those more general conversation. If you scroll across the Zoom menu bar, we also have the feature for captions enabled. So you'll just click captions and then you can select your preferred language for reading the captions. So we hope that that's helpful. Today, our presenter is Dr. Fantina Tedim, who will be talking with us about building resilient territories in the context of extreme wildfire. Fantina has a PhD in human geography and is a full professor in the geography department at the University of Porto in Portugal. Her research focuses on the social dimensions of wildfire, with projects examining preparedness, vulnerability, resilience, communication, and the causes of fire ignition. Her most important results are related to the concept of extreme wildfire and fire-smart territories. She's considered a thought leader for disaster risk and is a much sought after speaker and author. So we're very grateful for her time here today with us. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Fantina.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar. Well, so the topic of this webinar is building resilience in the context of extreme wildfires, and I add a social science perspective because for me, what is most important is to understand why wildfire disasters occur, why so many people lost their lives and their livelihoods, and this for me is a priority. Why this happened? When we think about Pedrógão Grande Fire that happened in 2017, and so far is the worst wildfire disaster in Portugal. We have two very interesting things. Firstly, this fire was what we call an extreme wildfire because it had a high intensity that reached 60,000 kilowatts per meter in the front line. had registered rate of spread that at the maximum was 15.3 kilometers per hour. And even the fire, the total burned area reached almost 29,000 hectares. The moment where the most people died, it was during the first day of the fire, and when the fire had almost 3,900 hectares, and in just 1 hour, the burned area increased more than 4,400 hectares. When we talk to the people, the survivors of this fire, what people mentioned is that they never saw something like that. They were used to fires, to cope with fires, but this was something different. And in effect, almost most of the people were killed in 30 minutes between the 8 to 20 in the first day of the fire. And 30 people died when they were trying to escape, because most of the people who died in this fire were trying to escape because they were completely scared about what they were seeing. And in this, in a road, national road, in a distance of 400 meters, 30 people died. So when we think about this kind of fires, these are a new, maybe it's not so new reality, because there are examples of this kind of events in another countries of the world during the last century. But when we think about what are the most important characteristics of the current reality, I select some points. One of the points is the expansion of the wildland-urban interface. And you can see here recent values and that show the percentage of wildland-urban interface by continent, and in all of the continents, the wildland-urban interface is increasing. Sorry. Another interesting point that characterizes our reality, wildfire reality, is that 90% of the fire are contained. And in general, they burned only 10% of the land, of the total burned area. But almost 90% of the burned area is explained by less than 10% of the fires. So there are fires that effectively they are very difficult or impossible to control and create large burned areas, and depending of the areas they affect, they can create or they can turn into wildfire disasters. Why this happen? Usually, and if I think as a citizen in my country, what a citizen can hear is that fires are always the same, and the only difference is that at the end, some are larger fires and others are small fires. But more important than this is the characteristics, the physical characteristics of fire. And one of these physical properties of fires is the fire line intensity. And there is a limit to the fire control. The maximum fire line intensity for working directly on the flames is generally about 4,000 kilowatts per meter. And using indirect attack, okay, the limit can reach about 10,000 kilowatts per meter. So there is a limit to the capacity of control wildfires. The figure you can see is from Portugal too, and is related with the fires that occur in 15 of October 2017. And if you can see in the graphic, there is the line of 10,000 kilowatts per meter in red, and see how many fires occur in the 15th of October, and they many of them had intensities above the limit of control. So in this situation, fire can spread where they want without any possibility to control their spread. Even there is many studies showing the different limits for the control capacity. It's interesting, and this is our two examples of studies showing that. One more that has been published in World Bank publication of 2020 show effectively that there are limits to the capacity of control of fire. But it's very interesting because if there is awareness of these limits of fire control capacity, even in the most prepared regions in the world, there is not always fully understanding by the people that by the communities, by the society, by the media, by the decision makers, even by the firefighters, of these limits of the capacity of control. In a recent research we developed here in Portugal, we made a survey to the firefighters who were involved in 2017 fires suppression. And among the different questions we had in the questionnaire, we had two that are very important to show the results. One of question asked if the 2017 fire was usual fires or there was something special. And the replies were that they were not the common fires, they were fires that they were not used to fight. And when we ask, and what is the solution to control this fire, the replies from the firefighters were more human and technical resources will be important to control these fires, and also more organization of the suppression. So even firefighters recognize that these are new phenomena. They think that they can address this problem with the same tools, with same suppression paradigm. Another characteristic is of our current reality is the scale of the impact. So, several times the impacts are not just to the region where the fire is burning, but they can spread for even for very far away areas. And here you have two images that show that smoke from 2023 wildfires in Canada arrived to Europe, and namely to Portugal too. Another characteristic is the suppression paradigm limitations. So beyond the limit of the capacity of control, there are two other limitations of the suppression paradigm. One is fire suppression is becoming very costly. And the other is, in many countries, there are stress, there are growing water scarcity, so which can create problems in the maintenance of the activity of fight the fire with water. And climate change. What is the influence of climate change in the occurrence of extreme wildfires? And well, what we can say is that climate change is making extreme wildfires more frequent, more intense, and they can appear in locations where they never occurred before. So climate change is increasing the fire weather conditions, increases the number of days with very catastrophic weather conditions, and extending fire seasons, and make the fire seasons changing the starting and finish of the time of the seasons. So we need to understand what are these extreme wildfire events if we want to develop measures to avoid their occurrence, and if it's not possible to avoid, to prepare society to face them. I would like to start thinking about wildfire as a hazard, okay? And if we don't think, or if we imagine that, it's not imagined because it is a reality. So wildfire is a component of ecosystem. So we can say that wildfire is a natural hazard, like earthquakes, like floods, storms, or others. So in the classification of MData, wildfires appears as a climatological natural hazard. Even I'm saying that wildfire is a natural hazard, usually I don't agree with this, because in most of the fires, ignitions are anthropic. So the origin of fire, usually in most of the countries of the world, is not natural, so is anthropic. So they are, we can say that they are a social, ecological hazard. But start thinking about wildfire as a hazard. So what means a hazard? Hazard means that it's a natural phenomenon, and wildfire is a natural phenomenon that has potential for create negative impacts on human structures, infrastructures, and in environment. And to understand natural hazards, we need the earth science that investigates physical characteristics, but also we need the social science that examine the complex relationship between humans and the environment. And this is crucial to understand how to prevent, mitigate, and prepare to cope with the hazards. Let's think about some other natural hazards, earthquakes and hurricanes. When we talk and we hear about earthquakes, we know that the threats they create to people and to society, to the human systems is related with ground shaking, subsidence, liquefactions, ground displacement, landslides, tsunamis, seisures, floods, relate with the rupture of dams and levees, and fire. And what earthquakes cannot kill directly people. Ground shaking cannot kill directly people, but they represent threats that can provoke a loss of lives and a big amount of losses. And to measure it, we have, usually people are very familiar with Richter scale. Even nowadays is more used the moment magnitude, the scales. And people understand that if using Richter scale, because people are more familiar with this scale. And if people hear that the earthquake has a magnitude of 4 or a magnitude of 8 or 9, they understand that the size in terms of intensity of the phenomenon, it's different, okay? In terms of hurricanes, okay, the hurricanes, the threats they represent to people are the heavy rains, high winds, storm surge, and even tornadoes. And there is a scale, Saffir-Simpson scale, that help people to also to understand the phenomena that are going to appear when it happens, and that also help people to prepare to face the hurricane. Concerning wildfires, usually people talk about wildfires in terms of size, in terms of number of occurrence, but wildfires as a physical phenomenon has also physical properties. The flame, fire line intensity, radiant heat, gases, smoke, flying embers. And this is extremely important to understand because these properties represent threats that, in case of people need to face a fire, need to consider how to protect from these threats. Because if I have here some images showing the fires with different physical characteristics, and there are 3 characteristics that are represented here: rate of spread, flame height, and also this is not a characteristic of fire, but the consumption of fuel by the fire. And all these images represent fires, but the characteristics of them, the intensity of them is different. So, and these fires represent different threats for people if they need to face and cope with these fires. So, because of that, in a project I coordinated some years ago, we decided that it was important to communicate to people, presenting them the physical characteristics of fire and show them that the fires can assume different characteristics. And because of that, we create this classification of fire where we consider 7 categories of fire. The parameters we consider are the fire line intensity, the rate of spread, the flame length, and also the presence of pyrocumulus or pyrocumulonimbus, the presence of the appearance of downdrafts, the spotting activity, and spotting the spotting distance. And of course, that each category of these fires are related with the capacity of control. And for instance, the category 1 is easy to suppress, but the category 4 is extremely difficult to control. But these 4 initial categories that we consider as normal fires. So normal fires are fires that even can be difficult. It's possible to control the fire. Above 10,000 kilowatts per meter in the front of the fire, we identify three categories. And these 3 categories are what we call extreme wildfires. So they are above the capacity of control. The values we have here in this table were not validated in the laboratory experiments. They were collected from literature from different countries of the world and from different types of fires, ground fires, surface fires, but these are the results of the most updated information we had at the time. Even we create this classification in 2018. So far, were not identified proposals of the changes to these values. So for the moment, they remain valid. Of course, that we can find some examples of fire that effectively go beyond the capacity of control. The graphic I present you at the beginning of my presentation show many fires above 10,000 kilowatts. And for instance, the Pedrógão Grand Fire, the one I talk in the beginning of my presentation, reached 60,000. Another fire in 2017 reached maybe 100,000. And there is evidence that in Australia we could have fires, in the Black Saturday fires could have at least 9,000 kilowatts, but there are others as like Kevin Tollers that point out about 150,000 kilowatts per meter. So what are extreme wildfires? We define extreme wildfire as a pyroconvective phenomenon overwhelming the capacity of control. So they present a fire line intensity above 10,000 kilowatts. The rate of spread is higher than 50 meters per minute, exhibiting a spotting distance higher than 1 kilometers. And these are qualitative characteristics, but are extremely important. They present an erratic and unpredictable fire behavior and spread. So so far it's impossible to predict the spread and the behavior of these fires. Even they represent a threat to the crews, to the population, to the assets. Not always and extreme wildfires become a disaster. And in our study, we clearly distinguish extreme wildfires from disaster, because extreme wildfires is based in the physical characteristics of fires and in the incapacity to control them. Okay, even in the most prepared countries of the world. While a disaster, it depends of the area where the the extreme wildfires spread and the vulnerability of this area. When we think about to how define extreme, we think there is three possible ways. The statistical one that consider the highest values of a statistical distribution, and we think that this is good. This is not good for us, because what can be an extreme wildfires or a fire with the highest intensity in the country can be very low comparing with another country. So we prefer to use values that independently of the geographical space, they represent the physical parameters of the fire. Sometimes there are papers that define extreme based on impacts. No, it's important to separate the physical properties of fire from the impacts. If we don't do this separation, we cannot assess the results of our prevention and preparedness, because otherwise we don't have the possibility to have parameters to evaluate the progress we can do in reduce the occurrence of extreme wildfires. So one challenge in this definition was how to integrate social dimension. In fact, social dimension is integrated not maybe in the way people could expect, but we intend to do a classification that could be used in different countries, in different geographic and cultural characteristics. But as you can see from this graphic, we consider that wildfire is a social ecological system, and there is, in all the phases of wildfire, there is an interaction between the human system and the ecological system. In the classification, we also consider that the different categories of fire represent physical threats and present also psychological threats. And of course, in the highest categories, the physical and psychological threats are higher, and the time people have to think what to do is very, very, very small, because everything is very rapid. Okay, so extreme wildfire events can turn into a disaster. Yes, they can turn into disasters, but we can have disasters created by fires that are not extreme. And in this scheme, we that show the factors that affect fire behavior, the characteristics of the fire behavior, and in the interaction of this fire behavior with the vulnerability of the socio-ecological system, we can have disasters or not, and we can have disasters related with extreme wildfire events like this one, but we can have wildfire disasters created by what we call normal fires. But the appearance of the disaster result from the interaction of the characteristics of the fire and the vulnerability and the characteristics of the geographic area affected by the fire. And what can we do concerning extreme wildfire? So the fire suppression paradigm doesn't present a solution. So we need to another paradigm of coexist with fire that is able to reduce risk, enhance resilience of society, and can adopt a proactive and long-term approach. So I have only 10 minutes, I think. What I would like to share with you is that we present a proposal of a new paradigm. So we created this in 2020, so 4 years ago. And the paradigm we call share wildfire governance. And here you have the image, the two first circle is related with the fire suppression paradigm and its evolution. And the SWG is the paradigm we propose. Well, in this paradigm, we try to avoid the use of terms like prevention, mitigation, because there are different definitions related with these terms. So what we thought it was to use terms that could have meaning for the people without creating confusion. So we divide in 3 phases: before, during, and after. So before is what you have in green. During is what you have in the red, and blue it's what can be done after. And in this model that we develop, we identify for each phase, we identify fields of action. And inside of each field of action, we have listed different types of actions. And for each action, what are the objectives that is supposed to reach with this action? So before fire outbreak, here is the 9 points or 9 fields of action we consider in this this model. So here are the field of actions, here are the actions, and here in this scheme you just have the general objectives of the model. But in the detailed table we have in the publication, we have for each action, we have its objective. So before fire outbreaks, you have here a list of the fields of action. During the fire, we consider 4 fields of action. And after the fire extinction, here we consider 6 fields of action. So these different fields of action can be used, and it's not necessary to use all of them. It depends on the characteristics of the landscape, of the territory we want to where we want to manage fire. Here, I don't have time to explain, but we made a comparative analysis, a SWOT analysis between the fire suppression paradigm and the paradigm with the shared wildfire governance paradigm we propose. And we just to highlight things that we accept this model accept the dual role of fire, use adaptive model, is focused on a shared governance. The social dimensions is a crucial component, and that is going to determine the type of actions that can be selected. So when I was thinking about resilience nowadays is a term, is a fuzzy word, because it's a word that where we can put everything. And I was thinking, it's still necessary, or it's still useful talk about resilience? Maybe yes, maybe yes. We can try to develop strategies to enhance resilience continue to try to develop models and frameworks and indicators to build and enhance resilience. Although it's important that the scientists look at the real problems of the territories and provide the best solutions. I'm not going to talk because I have not time about the fire smart territory. There is publications on it, and I would like just to leave you with the some final remarks. The model we propose, the shared wildfire governance, are able to is able to build and maintain a resilience, and the distinctions of the three stages is very useful. It promotes a societal engagement and tools that are important to avoid the occurrence of extreme wildfires. It is supporting a collaborative work between agencies and citizens, and for an effective fire management is necessary knowledge, choice, agreements, collaboration, and prioritization of the actions. The connectivity and synergies between the different actions we identify is able to abate the wildfires a wicked problem. Monitoring the efficacy of the actions and to see if the results are in the benefits of the ecosystems and citizens is extremely important. And it's crucial to have a continuous evaluation process to assess the improvements of the system and to identify where it's necessary to make changes. And one of the problems existing today is the agencies work in silos, and even experts work in silos, and it's necessary to abating silos and co-produce knowledge with stakeholders to solve specific problem. Engage local communities in decision-making process and help them to do the decisions is crucial. And we are living in the moment with there are a lot of information, but not necessarily the ideal information we need to measure the improvement of the system. So have good data to inform decision is crucial. So we don't need to just use the data we have so far. It's important to see the data we need to effectively build resilience. So thank you so much for attending.
Great, thank you so much. That was an excellent presentation. We don't currently have any questions that I can see in the question and answer tab. Oh, here's one. Let's see if I can. And then, so we have one here, and if you have questions after the presentation, go ahead and type them into the question and answer tab, and then we'll get those answered for you. Okay, so the first question we have is, I wonder if you have come across health issues after fires. And thanking you for your presentation as well.
No, Annie, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, the question is, I wonder if you have come across health issues after fires.
Yes, healthy issues is important, and in the model we present shared wildfire governance. One of the fields of intervention is health issues. Of course, that these extreme wildfires, because of the high intensity, the amount of smoke they generate, they can create more health issues that need to be considered. But I don't know exactly. The health issues is the usual health issues. They don't have other health issues. The problem is that okay, the amount of smoke can create more problems. And for instance, there are fires that are able to provoke health issues and even fatalities because of the consequences of the smoke. And there is, for instance, in Indonesia, there is problems like that. In Portugal, we have some problems, but it's not a topic very explored so far.
Thank you. We'll just give folks a minute to see if there's more questions to come in through the Q&A. Okay, this question is from John. What are the main challenges to predicting the occurrence of extreme wildfires as opposed to normal fires, several days or even weeks in advance?
So far is not possible to do that. Okay, I hope that that shortly there are some innovative solutions that can help. But even though I think that it's not possible to do that with a long period of advance. Of course, that to create these wildfires, one of the characteristics is the stability of the atmosphere, because these fires interact with the atmosphere. And recently, there is a ongoing European project focused on extreme wildfires, and I think we need to wait for the outputs of this project to think if they arrive to solutions that show that these fires can be predict. I don't agree that you can predict that with many days of before the occurrence. I think that is more close to the day, say that, and this we already can say that there are conditions that facilitate the occurrence of these fires. Okay, this we have this information because there is studies that relate fire weather index with fire line intensity. So we can predict in this way, and if there is the indicators of atmospheric instability are high, so there are conditions that can support the appearance of this type of events.
Great, thank you. Okay, what do you think are the main barriers to a paradigm shift from suppression to prevention?
Firstly, I think the culture of the organizations, because they are very focused on themselves, and we need to change and put the different organizations think about the impact of the fire. So Firstly, I think the culture of the organizations. Secondly, for the politicians and in democratic countries, so the suppression is more efficacious for the population than prevention. So because prevention takes time, preparedness takes time, and suppression with the airplanes and people stay more satisfied seeing airplanes coming. Even the airplanes are not even the aerial means are not able to do anything because they don't have conditions to intervene. But people stay, the citizens stay more, think that they are safer. So the political issues, okay. Another is the way the society, the urban society, see wildfires. So I think that for many, for the urban, for the urban society, wildfire is always a threat, and it's necessary to show people, to teach them that the fire has the two faces, and this is extremely important. I think that these three points, so the culture of organization, the political issues, and also the way the society, urban society, see the fires are important, because wildfire problem is a social construction. So and these three factors are extremely important to explain them. The permanence of fire suppression. And for instance, firefighters, is difficult for them to change of perspective. So I think it's necessary to educate. I don't like the term educate, to disseminate knowledge and to co-create knowledge. Maybe co-creating knowledge should be the way that will happen, will help to change the paradigm. I think we cannot change the paradigm from one day to the other. It takes time, and because there are many issues that need to be addressed. But what is important is to decide that it's important to change.
Thank you.
Let me just say that, for instance, in Portugal, I think that with the establishment of an agency that is AGIF, so that is responsible for the management of integrated management of rural fires. I think that this agency is preparing the country to this change, but there is many constraints. So these constraints must be managed slowly, because it's difficult to destroy some barriers. So it takes time to destroy them. There is a question. I don't know if I can. There is a question in the chat. I don't know if I can reply.
Yeah. So
that's the question
from Russell.
Is if the evaluation of the model is recommended at the region, local, or state level. Well, the shared wildfire governance model is applied at the local level, but there is interactions also with the regional and with state level. So it puts together actions that are bottom up with actions that are top down. So it mix or it can be applied or at the three level, local, regional, and state. Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for catching that one. Okay, this question is from David. And he is wanting to know if you can say something about the role of insurance or other compensation mechanisms in Portugal in promoting ex ante wildfire risk reduction through fuel management, hardening structures, or land use planning and zoning.
Well, I think that in Portugal there is not a big use of the transference of risk through insurance. One of the reasons, for instance, many times people living in the communities don't want to leave the house when a fire is coming, because many people in rural areas don't have insurance, and the house, if the house is destroyed, is the effort of a life, and they prefer to stay and defend the house because most of them don't have insurance. Of course, when we talk about companies or big forestry exploitations or agriculture exploitations, okay, yes, they use insurance, but most of the people living in rural areas don't use insurance.
Okay. Okay, we have time for a couple more here. Do you have some example of positive shift from WOF to new vision of paradigm? Some state that adopted important rules for this shift, some political change?
Well, the model is we create model. We did not apply the model so far in any place. However, I think that in some way it could be useful and it could be applied in the future. So maybe we can select a small parish and try to do that there. But there are many actions that we propose there that can be used and can be useful to shift the paradigm. But the model as a whole, entirely globally, so we did not apply the model. But I think it has positive aspects in terms of arguments, in terms of principles, in terms of organization that can help to support management, fire management before, during, and after the fire, and mainly before, because we think that of course we think that there is possibility to do many actions before the fires that are going to reduce the occurrence of fires and have effect in the reduction of the likelihood of appearance of extreme wildfires. We are starting working on, for instance, in the reduction of the ignitions of fire. So maybe this is the way we are going to start to use the model, because in this activity we are going to do in some municipalities in the country. So it's the possibility to start putting in practices this model and show the positive things it has. And it's a dynamic one, because for instance, when I was preparing this presentation and I looked at this model, I could identify more actions, more field of actions that are relevant. So it's something that is dynamic and what is important is to look at the fires and try to effectively manage fire instead of suppress fire, manage to, if you want, to reduce the risk of fire, reduce vulnerability, because nowadays we talk a lot about resilience, but we cannot create a resilient territory, a resilient society, a resilient landscape without reduce risk, okay, without reduce namely the component of exposure and vulnerability. They are complementary, in my opinion, okay?
Great, thanks. Well, that is a great question to end with. We've had lots of people saying thank you in the chat and with their questions. So we really do appreciate your time and your presentation, and thank you all for joining us. We'll have a recording of the presentation on each association's website within a day or so, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you very much, Dr. Tedim.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.